Busy. I had a 6 o'clock call, went to the gym, went for a walk, jumped in the pool on the roof, and I had a meeting at 10 o'clock. I was born in the Mater Hospital in Brisbane because we didn't have a hospital in Quilpie, where I was brought up for the first 5 years. So Mum and Dad had a sheep farm north of Quilpie, so we had no doctors out there, so I had to get born in Brisbane. I was into BMXs. I was probably into my BMXs the most. I was into a bit of music as well, and I was a very bad but passionate rugby union player through high school. Always in the bottom team, but always there. I studied commerce at University of Queensland, and while I was there, I was actually a part of an international business student organisation. We used to get jobs in Australia for overseas students. It was in about 40 countries. I graduated in '91. My GPA was terrible, market was terrible, so I put my form into this program, said I'll go anywhere and I'll do anything. And I got matched to Gibson in Ghana. Nobody wanted to go to Ghana, but I went there, and I spent 9 months in '91, '92 living with a host family in Accra. So I did that. Was my first sort of work experience. Travelled around overseas being a backpacker, worked on the shearing team because I'm from out there. Then I rocked up to a company called Robert Walters in '94 looking for an accounting job off the back of my experience in Ghana with Gibson and worked out pretty quickly I was going to be a very bad accountant, but thought I could be a recruiter. So I joined a company called Robert Walters in '94, spent a year there, then I got sent to Sydney in '95 to start the Sydney office, then went to Singapore, Japan, and eventually ran Latin America. So the company was 120 when I started, 4,500 when I left 3 years ago. 3.5 years ago, decided to go back to Australia after being overseas for 20 odd years and started my own company 3.5 years ago doing crypto and blockchain recruiting, which is kind of niche within a niche. 77 countries in total. Tajikistan was the last one on a motorcycle.
Got a favourite?
To live, Japan. Probably my most memorable travel experience was going to Myanmar back in 1998. This is before Coca-Cola was there. It was actually like walking around Discovery Channel. That was the most memorable, Myanmar back then. But to live, Japan any day of the week. I've blown through 11 passports. I've had 11 passports. 2 of them were lost, so that could call it 9. Call it 9. I think I was always been a bad musician. That's why I loved it so much. I always tried to play guitar and do everything. I just had no skill. I think that's why I have got such a fascination and amazement for what these musicians do, in the studio and on stage particularly. So my first real concert when I was like 15 was Ice House at the Refect Club, and my second concert was the Hoodoo Gurus at the same place, I think in 1985 when they were doing Mars Needs Guitars. Was my second ever concert, and I think, as I mentioned before, at Sao Paulo on Saturday night was my 30th Hoodoo Gurus show, 17th city, 5th country. So always loved music, especially guitar music. So I've been a fan of all your classic Aussie bands. Probably my favourite band these days is Grinspoon, which we can both relate to. What an amazing outfit. But look, music in general is just sort of something which kind of takes me away from being a sort of bit of a worrywart, but I love it. But what I have done, because I've got to travel so much with work, I was traveling, I'd actually, weave in different concerts around the world with my travel schedule, which is how I met Victor. I weaved my travel into a concert in San Francisco to see the Hoodoo Gurus. And here we all are in this room today talking about the evolution of music, how we love it and how it brings people together. So it's always found a way to go to a show in a different country if I could make it look kind of work related. How Kevrock started for 2009. I was living in Japan for about 7 years at that point, and I just fell in love with Japanese hard rock music. There's a lot of really small clubs in Tokyo. Any night of the week, there'll be 4 or 5 Japanese rock bands, and they are just unbelievable. They practice really hard. In Australia, if you have a few songs, you get out and you have a go. In Japan, they practice the hell out of it. So when they hit the stage, some of the musicianship, even though it's really hardcore punk music, is just extraordinary. So I kind of fell in love with it. And I could think of 8 or 9 live music clubs, and you can go any night of the week and there'll be 4 or 5 bands. The complete opposite of what's happened to Australia these days. It's just fascinating, and it's a whole subculture. People think of all different things about Japan, but they don't think of all the underground music culture, and it really is underground because these clubs are in the basement. They probably hold between 50 and 250 people, and the stage is about this high, so it's pretty intimate. And as a result, being one of the only foreigners wandering around there, you get to know the bands pretty quickly, right? So, fast forward 2009, I thought, wouldn't it be great if these bands get to play on a really big stage, like a festival type stage? At the same time, me and my mates had some land and a nice area to do it in Japan, and my mate said, we should have some bands on the tennis court for your 40th. And I thought, then I sort of had a few beers and got thinking, I'm going to ask the Hoodoo Gurus. So wrote this quite a long email telling them all how the times I'd seen them, why I thought they'd love to play in Japan. I had a bunch of mates who were able to give me hotels and cars and all sorts of stuff to make it happen. My sister worked in the music industry. I thought, I can pull it off. I know the guys from Fuji Rock. So through back and forth, they finally agreed to come up. And in the interim, when I thought they weren't going to come, I reached out to Regurgitator as my backup plan, and they said yes in 24 hours because they're good Brisbane boys. And I ended up with Regurgitator and Hoodoo Gurus on the Kev Rock lineup with 7 of my favourite Japanese bands. So it was kind of just happened. It got out of hand and it just sort of came together amazingly. What I think actually kind of made it happen at the end of the day, how I sent them a long email, said, your first album has 2 songs about Japan. I get a feeling you love it. My sister is a professional. I'm going to have the people from Fuji Rock and stay an amazing 4-hostel. But unfortunately, I'm just a guy with a kind of my own little dream, and I can't pay you to play actually. But I can show you an amazing time in Japan. I really think you just love the experience. Now, part of that email was a sort of a reference to a trip I did to see the Hoodoo Gurus, like traveling and work. So I was living in Tokyo at the time, and I managed to convince the Sydney office to me to come and do some training and some client work at the same time that Muck Shower was released. And the only day I could get there, they were playing in Cabramatta, I think, way out west. So I organised a Tarago, a bunch of mates, and we headed off out west. Spiderbait was supporting, actually. It was a Muck Shower tour, and had a great night as always. And then I bought a t-shirt with that little mini panel van on it. Remember that one? Great shirt. And so I had a few beers, trying to get my t-shirt signed. So I went out the back, went to the security, hey, I flew from Japan to see this show. Can I get my t-shirt signed, please? He goes, sure, what's your name? So my name's Kev. Cool. So I was just hanging out the back, and then the other guy's going, come on, mate, we've got to go. The Tarago's here, we've got to go. So I go to the security, I need my shirt back, I've got to go. And he comes like, they'd like to meet you. I'm like, oh, and normally you'd be like, great. And I'm like, oh shit, I got to get in the Tarago. But anyway, I'll wait. I walked in there, and there's the boys all sitting there, and Brad looks at me and goes, did you fly from Japan to see us? I'm like, yeah, I did. And he goes, thanks, mate. So in the letter I wrote to Michael McMartin, R.I.P., what a great man. I said, look, in that email, I said, I'm the guy that flew from Japan to see the Muck Shower tour. I've seen every album launch tour since I was, 16, I guess. And I think that was the thing, because when I sent the email, they initially came back, and I get it. They said, we don't do this sort of stuff. They must get asked all the time to come and do this and do that. And I thought, oh, well, at least they read the email. But then from what I could work out, he's probably sent the email to the band going, look at this guy trying it on. And they obviously read it, and someone must have remembered, that's the dude that flew from Japan. So I kind of think that might have twisted it for me. My sisters worked in music ages, and they were very particular before they agreed. They had all the infrastructure sorted, the right back line. There was a bit of due diligence, to be done on me just yet. And I actually went and met Michael at his place on Sydney Harbour just to meet me and make sure I'm a real guy, and I was going to pull it off properly. And I wasn't some random guy who'd had this weird dream. So I had to go down and sort of get a bit of due diligence done. But yeah, it took a couple of weeks to say yes and 4 weeks to really confirm it. But in the interim, the boys from the Go said, yeah, we'll come. It was just because I kind of knew them because they're Brisbane boys. So, and Paul Curtis, what a legend. That he's managed the Regurgitator since day one, and such an accessible, friendly guy. I've met him so many times, and he was a really big help to Kev Rock. I was like, what should I do here? What should I do here? And Paul's going, well, remember this, got to remember this, do that. With the Gurge, Ben was living in Berlin, Kwan was living in Hong Kong, Pete was selling drums in Sydney, and they were kind of on a bit of a hiatus. And I said, hey, I know you played Fuji Rock, I know you love it. One of their first film clips was filmed in Shibuya Crossing in Tokyo, right? So I know they love it, and didn't take much convincing. All I had to do was get them all to Tokyo, then get them back to Australia, and we're good. So yeah, that was just on the day, you know, I had probably 250, 300 people. So the plan was totally free to come. You can come if you know me, and if you've got some friends who want to come, they get to come too. Just give me a list. It was quite fascinating because we're in a sort of valley in Hakuba, right? And so you've got rice fields out the front, you know, ski resort, mountains up the back, but you're surrounded by a lot of houses and a lot of sort of older Japanese people living within a couple of kilometers of where our place was. We had 4 chalets, a 6-room hotel we used for, you know, the green room overlooking the stage on the tennis courts, right? But within a couple of kilometers, you had a lot of pensioners living in these houses, right? So but probably the most stressful part of the whole thing was I wrote this long letter in Japanese saying who I was, I had a house here, and I'm bringing these bands from Australia and Japanese bands, and it's going to be really noisy and I'm really sorry. Here's some chocolate and here's 10 drink tickets if you'd like to come. And like these people like my bad Japanese like practicing and they're going, oh, sumimasen, sumimasen. And Japanese people are so polite, they never say, no, get lost, you can't do that. And like, hold on, this weird gaijin turning up saying he's going to do a rock concert down the road from their house, but I had some free tickets and some chocolate. Okay, and I went to the police and got a letter from them, and I had that in the letter. So I've got permission from the local police. This is who I am. This is what I'm doing. Here's some drink tickets. Here's some chocolate, and so that was all fine. But I didn't think they'd turn up. They turned up. So you had all my friends and, you know, all these other people, these foreigners and all this stuff, and rock people, and then there's like about 15 or 20 of these old Japanese people just walking around listening to all of this fascinating, and they were there right to the end, right to the end. I had a barbecue for all, you know, I had another separate hotel for all the Japanese bands, right? And they were just pumped to be playing on a proper stage, you know, in front of, you know, a few hundred people. They played in basements to 20 or 30 until this point, most of them. So there, and the Hoodoo Gurus turn up in the morning. Me and my mate went and picked them up and drove them up there, and then they were having a barbecue for the local bands, and they just said, oh, can we come? So next, all the local bands are hanging around just having a barbecue at their hotel, which is near the Kev Rock, and next to the Hoodoo Gurus walk in, start chatting to everybody, and the bands couldn't believe it. This would never happen at a normal festival. And then that night we had a pre-party. We had 2 of the local bands, the Piggy Piglets and Kinley Band. They played at the pre-party the night before, and all the Hoodoo Gurus and all Regurgitator were just floating around the car, chatting to people going, oh, they're really here. I'm sure up until that point, people thought it was a joke. People thought this is some sort of weird scam Kev's pulled to get us all to come to Japan. So like probably 40 people come to Japan just for it. Fast forward 10 years, I'd actually moved to Brazil, and like when you live in Asia, a lot of people come and visit you, right? You move to Brazil from Australia, no one visits you. It's just too far away. And, you know, and a couple of people say, oh, you should do Kev Rock again. And I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe, you know, it's a bit more complicated and things don't work. Things aren't as predictable in Japan, in Brazil, let me tell you that, right? And I'm like, oh, yeah. And it's just more expensive to get people here and everything. But the thing was, I'd actually had the same experience in Brazil where, you know, Brazil, where it's known for kind of samba and sertaneja, there's a massive sort of subculture of Japanese rock bands. And I was right into a lot of them, as you can imagine, right? Living here for 4 years at the time. So I thought, okay, if it's going to get people to come visit me, I'll go and do it again. So I got the same designer, Rowan, to do another. I just basically started with another logo. I said to Rowan, who did the first Kev Rock logo, I need to do one for Brazil. And if you look at both logos, they're kind of almost exactly the same, but one's a Japanese, one's a Brazilian one with the circle and the kangaroo. So So I just started with a logo. I'm like, hey, I think I just emailed, I'm thinking about doing Kev Rock in Brazil, and sent out the logo. People going, absolutely, you got to do it, you got to do it. I'm like, all right, here we go. The band I'd really wanted to come is the Superjesus, right? 'Cause I'd seen them support the Gurus a year or two. I've always been into them, and they seem like a lot of fun, you know, especially Sarah. And so I actually got, you know, Michael from the Hoodoo Gurus and Ben from the Gurge to send her an email going, hey, Kev wants you to play Kev Rock. It's really good. We did it. Go along. So actually, the first Kev Rock bands actually talked the second Kev Rock band to come and play in Brazil, because they go, he's a real dude. Everything's run perfectly. You'll have a good time. Do it. And Sarah actually, she manages the band. Well, she did at the time. So I was getting email directly. Hello, I've heard about Kev Rock. We'd love to come and play. Tell me more about it. So next thing you know, it's on, and then sort of stuff. So it was bit more, it was in a very different venue. We're on this and Vitor, we went and looked at it together, didn't we? Yeah. So I wanted to do down at the beach because up the coast from where Vitor lives is a series of just spectacular beaches with really cool places. And we found a place at Duque up on the hill, overlooking the ocean, covered thing, pretty small stage, but just a classic, unbelievable, only in Brazil type venue. So we sort of agreed on that and got things going, and it all started to come together, but it was a little bit more complicated in some ways. So I needed to get a bit of support. So my friend Mariana, she's basically the general manager of the Hyatt, and she lived in Japan when she went to the first Kev Rock, and is a huge Hoodoo Gurus fan because she's Brazilian living in Japan. She's at the Grand Hyatt, and I said, Mariana, we had Kev Rock in Japan, well I'm doing it here, and I need a hotel sponsor. So they came forward and gave me all these rooms, not the Mercury, at the Grand Hyatt. So I was like, you get to stay at the Grand Hyatt, and they did a really cheap deal for my friends to stay. So that was basically the hub of the Kev Rock in Sao Paulo. Was at the Grand Hyatt. On the night of the thing, it actually started raining really heavily, didn't it? It started rain really heavily. I mean, this place room is kind of this old sort of thatched roof kind of setup, right? And it was actually, if you look on the video that the guys made, actually when they start, you can see water dripping through the things. And Sarah told me later they were actually getting electric shocks during the show, and they just kept going. Just amazing, right? I had to get all the cars from the hotel to the venue, and there wasn't enough room. So Sarah actually jumped in the boot of the car. She was the star of the show, and she arrived at the show in the boot of someone's car. She says, yeah, it's fine. She goes, I think what she said, and Sal told me this, combat rock, and just jumped in the boot. Because everyone was in the car going, oh, Sarah, you're the star, you should probably jump in the boot. He said, no, I'll be fine. She jumped in the boot. 10-minute ride to the venue in the boot of the car. First saw the Hoodoo Gurus back in '85 when they released Mars Needs Guitars. I even got my album signed at Magnolia Records in Toowoomba back then. And when you're young, you just sort of listen along and you sing. But over the years of seeing them and listening to the music, you start to realize what the songs are about, and they form part of your sort of growing up, right? And just they kind of, and then when you see them play live, they understand what they're trying to sing about. Sometimes you don't listen, but when the way Dave sings and emotes these songs, you're in the moment. You go, oh, now so it's a very emotional experience because you've listened to it so many times, and you sort of see Castles in the Air, and some of those songs are just such magic, powerful songs, right? And the musicianship is just amazing, and it's a cliche. Oh, they just keep getting better with age. I tell you, they do. And there's nothing, I guess, more emotional for an Australian when you're overseas and you hear 1,000 miles away. I mean, that is such a special song. When you're overseas, I'm tingling just thinking about it. The amount of times I've been overseas with mates and that song comes on, we all get all teary-eyed. When you travel a lot, live overseas, you can relate to it. And it's quite funny when I listened to that song the other night with a guy who's been a fan of the Hoodoo Gurus, for 35 years, and that was the first time he ever got to see them. Brazilian fellow, right? And just singing that song, and just knowing what the Hoodoo Gurus had been through this week with, delayed flights, sitting around airports, 2 hours sleep, that song, it comes from a real place.
Your first concert?
Ice House.
First album?
AC/DC, Back in Black.
If you could go and see a band or artist, past or present, tonight, who would it be?
Viagra Boys.
What's the next gig you've already got tickets for?
Viagra Boys. I'm pretty excited about it. I'll go twice.
Beatles or Stones?
Stones.
Hendrix or Clapton?
Hendrix.
Hagar or Lee Roth?
Hagar.
Frida or Agnetha?
The blonde one.
Dance floor or seated?
Dance floor.
Fender or Gibson?
Gibson. Of course.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Beer or something else?
Beer.
MTV or Rage?
Rage.
Vinyl or streaming?
Unfortunately streaming, but I wish I had my mum has faithfully kept all of my old albums there, but a little bit scratchy. I need to get a turntable, but yeah, streaming, but I'd love to do more vinyl.
Stairway to Heaven or Bohemian Rhapsody?
Ooh, Stairway to Heaven, I guess.
It's 1 a.m, you've seen a band, you've had a few drinks, it's almost time to head home. What's your kebab order?
Huh? Fully loaded. Fully loaded. Everything you've got, mate. Every sauce, every condiment, every type of meat you've got, I want it all.
Where do you see yourself in 5.5 years?
Talking about Kev Rock 60 to you, mate. At a Hoodoo Gurus show, of course. In the line to the Dunny. The Hoodoo Gurus show in San Francisco in 2010. And beautiful theatre, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, great.
Anyway,
Great American Music Hall.
Great American Music Hall. There you go. Vita, the man with the details. So if I'm missing something, just jump in.
Okay.
So I was in the toilet and I heard this guy say to me, "Oh, I'm so excited to come." I'm trying to do a bad Brazilian accent. Anyway, I'm so excited to see the Hoodoo Gurus. And I'm like, "Well, where are you from, man?" He goes, "Brazil." And I said, "Oh, you live in San Francisco?" He goes, "No, I flew from Brazil to be here." I'm like, "You're kidding me. That's something I could relate to." I'm like, "Yeah, we probably get on well." I said, "Oh, mate, I understand what you go through to get that." So I said, "Do you want us to meet the band? Because I'm going to go and see them after the show." I don't think you believed me, did you? He was like, "Oh, yeah." And after the show,
we found suspicious.
Yeah, exactly. After the show, I said, "Mate, Vitor, let's go, follow me." So I just blasted through and said, "He's with me," and then took him backstage and it was walking again, "Hey, Kevin," and I said, "Guys, this is Vitor. He flew all the way from Brazil to see your show." So he'd flown all the way up there. Next thing you know, he's drinking beers and meeting the Hoodoo Gurus for the first time. 2010, June, July? October 2010. Details.
Oh, then we became really good friends. We started sending messages. And then Kevin called me and said, "I'm going to Brazil."
On a business trip.
On a business trip. And I said, "You should come to Santos, to my house." And he came. We had a
couple of beers.
What?
We had a couple of beers. And
way more than a couple of beers.
Really a lot of beers, to be honest.
Yeah. And he had a flight to pick at 6 in the morning.
Yeah, so I had to get up at 3.
Yeah. And he called me. He was the
I was in the room next door.
The room next door, yeah. But he called me, "Vitor, please call a driver to me." And I was like, "Oh, I can't do it. I'm so sick."
There's 220 million people in Brazil, and we ran into each other at an airport up north, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. We ran
true story.
up in.
It's a cool story.
Yeah.
I was in Bahia, and I met a guy from Rio, and he used to work for Time for Fun. You know Time for Fun? Mm. It's a company that an entertaining company. They bring Natalie Imbruglia to Brazil and some other big guys. And I met him in Bahia, and we start talking, and he asked me. From nothing, by nowhere, he asked me, "Do you know about the Hoodoo Gurus?" And I was like, "Oh, you like the Hoodoo Gurus?" "Yeah, the Hoodoo Gurus are in the Spotify right now." Okay, so we start talking, and when he told me that he works for Time for Fun, I asked him, "Why don't we bring Hoodoo Gurus to Brazil?" And that's a good idea. And that was another guy there who owns a venue in São Paulo, and he says, "Okay, let's try to do it." So I'm going home. I went to the airport thinking, "Oh, I must talk to Kevin. It's a great idea." And who is at the airport in Bahia waiting for the same plane as mine?
Yeah.
Kevin.
So we're on the same plane.
The same plane. So
that's right.
It was me, Kevin, and the guy from the venue, and we start talking about bringing the Hoodoo Gurus to Brazil, and we send a proposal to them. Yeah. We make it's true. We make our plans. Had a meeting and send to Michael a proposal. Yeah, to bring the Hoodoo Gurus to Brazil. Doesn't work. But we try
harder than it looks.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly an emotional guy. typically, but it really brings out what emotions I have to the fore. And I associate times and people with music, so it's sort of that it transports you back to different times. I don't know. It's really hard to define. It's hard.
I think Kevin made the point. Music is all about emotion for me. There's a song by Genghis Jan called 24 Hours a Night. It's a song from their album Lingo. It's a happy song, a melodic song, a happy melody. And I always liked that song, but I never took too much attention to the lyrics. And then my father died some years ago, and I was driving, and this song was playing, yeah, and for the first time I took attention to the lyrics, and such great lyrics about what fathers gives to the son, and the son gives to the grandson, like that, and I didn't know that. So music is all about emotion. It's all about connection. It's all about you bringing you the best of you, if you feel like free to receive this energy.
I cannot think of anything I would prefer to be doing. Anything. Snowboarding, listening to Grinspoon is the peak enjoyment for me. So Sao Paulo is massive. It's 26 million people, which is, you know, for comparison's sake, that's the population of Australia in one city. And it's sort of sprawled and grown, and you know, it's quite a beast, and can be quite an intimidating city for someone who doesn't know it. But when you've got a city that big, there is always pockets of real personality and different things. And it's a pretty flat city for the most part. But there's one part called Vila Madalena. It was a very mountainous kind of thing, and I guess was, you know, not a great place to be back in the day. But it's in this really crazy bohemian neighborhood. And part of that is this alley called Becco de Batman, which is just the template or the canvas, I guess, for, you know, amazing street art, which sort of changes, and it's just attracted this incredible sort of group of, you know, creative people selling stuff on the street, drinking beers and artwork, and just this whole community sort of attached to the side of this really cool suburb. So we went there yesterday, walking around, taking photos, drinking beers on the street, which you can't do in Australia. Why? Live music. From the restaurant we're sitting at, we could see 5 bands playing from our table. You know, extraordinary place.
Yeah.
We'll see you at Kev Rock 60.
Oh,
Pressure's on. Thanks, man. Hi, I'm Kevin Gibson, and you can find my story at the Australian Rock and Roll Museum.
Shits and giggles. Could you do that in any other language?
Yeah, sure. Olá, meu nome é Kevin. Você pode encontrar minha história no Museum do Australian Rock and Roll. Close enough?
Yeah.
They won't know.
I'm in, buddy.